I just found blogs online and people who teach cookie decorating and take some classes here and there. And I was just going to share some of my favorite techniques with you guys today. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to be answering questions after the video is over, and hopefully you guys learned something new and fun today. Then I'm going to take a scribe tool, or you can use a toothpick too, but this is a scribe tool. And I'm just going to use a circular motion to push the icing to the edge that I want it to be at. I like a little bit of cookie edge to show, just a little. I want that to be a bigger wave. There. Okay, we're gonna let the cookie firm up. We're gonna let it dry. And then we'll have more fun with it. But for right now, there is a flooded cookie. That is how you flood a cookie. All right, and I'm gonna flood one more cookie. Second cookie. We'll see how those beach cookies come out. Okay, let's see here. Okay, focus. Okay, these are some of the fabulous molds that we have here at the library that's in the kit you can now borrow from the library, which is called the Fondant Mold Kit, I believe. It looks like this, but it has the, all of the stuff on there. Oh, there we go. Fondant molds. Fondant molds. You don't have to use these for fondant, and I'm not going to. I'm going to be using these melting wafers. The melting wafers are really easy to find. You can find them at Joann's. You can find them at Michael's. I'm using Sweet Tooth Fairy. Let's see if I can get this in. Sweet Tooth Fairy, bright white, vanilla flavored wafers. And you just put them, you pop them in the microwave at 50% for about a minute, stir, and if it needs more, do another 30 seconds. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's see how our molds did. I'm really excited about these molds. I think they're so cute and they're gonna make great embellishments for cookies. And the great thing about molds, I'm just gonna gently pull it apart. The great things about molds is that you can put these embellishments on any kind of, they don't have to be a royal icing cookie. It could be a buttercream cookie, buttercream frosting. It could be a cream cheese frosting cookie, and they always are super fun. And ooh, this guy's exciting. Let's see how he looks. Don't want to break him for the video. Oh yeah, some of these just came out gorgeous. So these are really cool molds, and the library's got them, and you can make all kinds of little beachy shells, which we just did. Be very careful to take each one out delicately. Now I'm going to do a little fun stuff with them. So you can use any number of things to decorate molded chocolate or candy melt molds. I like to use luster dust or dust powder dust. This one is a hybrid sparkle dust powder from Roxy and Rich. And you can just dip your brush into it and brush it on, but it's just going to be kind of sparkly, and it's not going to be like painting it or using a pen on it. I'm not a huge fan of the pens. I actually prefer to brush with food coloring and alcohol. And the alcohol, you want it to be a high proof alcohol, but you also want it to be consumable alcohol. So don't use like, disinfectant alcohol or anything. So this alcohol is just vodka. That's what I've been using. And it evaporates and you don't really taste it at all, but it helps you paint. And I also use it to mix in some of the luster dust if I want to create kind of a gold or any of the dusts that I have. I have a white pearl dust. I have blue. I have a rose gold. And you can paint the little pieces, and you can see I painted this little piece with the gold luster dust and some vodka. I mixed it together and I brushed it on. And I dry brushed some teal onto this little shell. But I'm going to show you guys a little bit how I dry brush. So you're going to get a brush. You're going to dip it in your vodka or alcohol, whatever you're going to use, and food coloring. Just put a drop in there usually. And then you're going to dab the excess moisture off onto a paper towel so that your brush is fairly dry. And then you're just going to gently try not to hold these too much because they will melt, but you can just gently add some color to I like just putting on the edge of a clamshell. You guys can see my edge, move it forward. So I'm just dry brushing. Move, you guys. Dry brushing the edge of the clamshell with that turquoise color. And then you have a little turquoise edge clamshell. And I like to add a tiny bit. I'm going to move this guy off. All of these moving over a little bit. I'm going to add some luster dust. My favorite right now, that's crystallized pearl, which looks really nice on shells too, but is the satin white hybrid sparkle dust. And the reason I like this one is because you can see how sparkly, maybe. Can you guys see how sparkly that is? If I put it into the light, it's very sparkly and it's going to add a lot of sparkle. The pearl powder and the luster dusts, they kind of just add a sheen. You can see that there's a little bit of sparkle to them, but they're not quite like a sparkle powder. So I'm going to use my little favorite square little brush. And I'm just going to get a little bit on the edges of my brush. And I'm going to add some sparkle to my little clamshell. I don't know if you guys can see the sparkle of it, but it's really pretty. Okay, so I have one of my hearts here, and I'm going to attempt to make the sand texture. Let that dry for a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see the texture there. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, and then we're gonna add our little kind of beachy wave look. And I've got my little bag. Now, the tricky part, the waves. It's not super tricky, but when you have thick royal icing, it dries very quick. So don't do all of this in one shot. Don't do your whole little coastline in one shot. Just do a couple at a time. I'm gonna make a bead. I'm gonna make kind of a beaded border, but not a great beaded border, just beads along the coast, like that. I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna get my brush a tiny bit wet. And now I'm gonna just take the edge of that brush and pull it down to make kind of beachy waves there, just along the edge. Okay, so now we have waves on our sandy beach. So that's kind of how it looks there. The beach, all that kind of stuff. And if you want, you can add like some cute little thing over here, some flip-flops or something like that, and you'd have a pretty nice little beachy heart. There you go. This is kind of the it cookie for this summer. I've noticed many different versions of it online. And I'm going to actually show you guys a different way to do sand on the other heart. Okay, so let's attempt to do the sand with actual sand material looking stuff. So the sand I've made, so this is the sand. Let's see here if I can get this into the shot. Is just honey graham cracker crumbs and so like the graham cracker crust stuff that you can buy, the honey made, and Nilla wafers crushed and processed to kind of a fine powder. So it looks like sand. And my little brilliant addition is the bright silver crystallized powder. Actually, what I used was the sparkle dust. The, where did it go? There it is. The satin white hybrid sparkle dust. I used about a scant eighth of a teaspoon into a little bowl and made, I hope that you guys can see that. I made the sand a little sparkly. So it kind of comes through, it's really kind of cute. Hopefully you guys can see that on there. sandy beachy heart, which is pretty fun too. Pretty cute. Okay guys, I want to talk to you guys about sugar lace or cake lace or dress sugar. There's a lot of different names for it. These molds that you find in the fondant molds from the library kit are meant to do those things. And you can see they're pretty intricate, and they're meant to use this kind of dressing sugar that turns it into edible lace. And that lace is malleable, and you can pull it around things. It's not stiff. It's not like a molding chocolate. There's different types. You can buy it in sheets and cut it up and spritz it and then put it in. You can buy those sheets on Amazon, or you can get a mix. This one that I'm using right now is Martellato sugar dress. It's imported from Italy, and it's a two-step process. You basically add 4 tablespoons of the powder into your mixer and 11 teaspoons of cold water, and you mix that for about 4 minutes, and then you add a teaspoon of the liquid that it comes with, and you mix that for another 2 minutes. And you can use that right away, or you can wait. You can see I just made it, and you can see there's some bubbles in there. Those bubbles aren't really great if you're going to pipe it, but since we're going to be spreading it into the mold, that's okay, because we're going to be doing a 2-step process with the dress sugar. So this one from the library is absolutely beautiful, and I love it. And if I have leftover dress sugar, I'll use it. But the one I want to use today is my mat, because I've got these really pretty in my mat. You can see little rounded doily things that I think look really cute on cookies. So we're going to go ahead and use that. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of my dress lace mix into my mold. Okay, so it's time to take a look at how our cake lace did. And I already took one out. They're a little bit tacky still, but okay to work with. You can see this is my little doily. It's made of the lace material that we poured into here and then scraped. I'm gonna do one from the edge to show you kind of how delicate you need to be when taking these out. Well, particularly when they're not quite dry. I would recommend letting this sit overnight, but since I'm doing a video today, I'm gonna delicately, oh so delicately, peel this guy out of, ooh, and I tore him a little bit, the mold, because he's not quite dry. But I want a couple to work with here, so I'm gonna take him out of his mold anyway. Ooh. Okay. A little worse for the wear, but I have another one. Yeah, he's missing a little part, but that's okay, because I intend to, for one of them, cut the innards out. We'll see how we like it on the cookies that I do, a little tea cookie. Okay, so we're gonna work on our little tea cookies here. I'm gonna cut off, I lost my little scissors, so I'm gonna just use a big pair of scissors. I'm gonna cut off the tip of my bag, and I mixed some, I'm just gonna be flooding, so it doesn't need to be super precise. One of the little molds that we did a flower, and I went ahead and painted that with a little bit of pink and some pink rose pink luster dust. And I'm going to go ahead and flood these 2 cookies. Actually, before I flood the cookies, I'm going to cut one of these. So the one that has the hole in the center there, if you can see the hole it's supposed to be, you can see it right there. I'm going to go ahead and trim that. Okay. So now I have just my little doily, that the cutout piece there, and then I have one of the full ones there. So I'm going to go ahead and flood a cookie. We can take our doily, right onto the cookie like that. And we can put our little flower right in the center. And then I might give it some leaves later. I'm going to take the whole doily now and center it up. Whoop. So some cute tea cookies, easy to do, super easy to do, and everyone will think you're a genius. Cake lace is pretty amazing stuff, and it's pretty fun to work with. So there are some tea cookies. I'm probably going to add a little leaf to, I'm going to add some leaves to this one probably.
Oh. All right. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can call on you. Those were great, Mary.
Thank you.
So fun. So creative.
I hope everybody enjoyed watching.
It was pretty amazing. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants like links to where I purchase some of my stuff, like on Amazon or anything like that, I don't know if those came when you registered or like if those were in like an email you got, but if not, Christy's gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat, and you guys can email me and I can email you a list of my links, because I know that for me, it was like, it took a whole year for me to get to where that was at that point. You know, what's a scribe tool? Where do I get that cute little scraper? You know, all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Sanjana.
Yeah. So someone asked about the making the cookies.
Oh, so those are...
How do you make the cookies?
Yeah, so those are basic sugar cookies, and there's a lot of different ideas on how to make basic sugar cookies. And one of the reasons why I didn't put the royal icing recipe or the sugar cookie recipe in my video is because so many people have so many different ideas on how to do that. My sugar cookie, I'll tell you, that I really like is, I don't add baking powder to it. It is like flour and butter and vanilla, and it's a very simple recipe and it comes out pretty good. My little trick that I like to add with a sugar cookie, because I think that it gives it a little bit more dimension, is I add a teaspoon of butter extract, and I also add a teaspoon of butter extract to my royal icing, because I think royal icing tastes pretty blah unless you add something to it. And so I add a teaspoon of vanilla and a teaspoon of butter extract to my royal icing to give it a little bit more of an icing-y flavor. Other than that, I've tried so many ways to make royal icing. And I have to say, I've seen so many variations on making your own from scratch. And while somebody might be an expert at that, I certainly never had that great of luck. My favorite way to make royal icing is to get the Cellabakes royal icing bags from like just the mix from like Amazon. And then I add the 1/3 cup of water that it says. I try to make that water room temp too. I think that works better if you make the water room temperature. And then I add a teaspoon of vanilla and a teaspoon of imitation butter. And it's fantastic. It's like everybody loves that royal icing. So. The other tricks that you might want to keep your cookies in a good shape for like when you're baking them, for them to retain the shape, is a good tip is to make sure your baking sheets are cold. You can even put them in the, I roll out my dough and I put with the paper, what do you call it, parchment paper on top, because I roll it between 2 pieces of parchment paper. I put that whole sheet in the fridge for like a half an hour. So the dough is chilled and the pan is chilled. And then when you cut, it keeps its shape better if you just put them in the oven directly, very cold, with a cold baking pan.
Someone asked, can you use raw eggs in royal icing?
Yes, so traditionally royal icing was made with raw eggs, and that is actually how it was made before the great invention of meringue powder, which everyone uses now because people get kind of, oh, there's raw eggs in it. But traditionally royal icing was made with raw eggs. You don't want to put, the thing you don't want to put in royal icing is any kind of oil, so no butter or anything like that in your royal icing. And as a matter of fact, some people, when they're making royal icing, they clean out their mixer bowl with like vinegar to make sure none of the oils from the buttery dough are left in there. Because if your royal icing has oils in it, it cannot set quite right, it can break. And then also you can get, and this can happen to you anyway, but you can get the dreaded butter bleed. That's what it's called when you see like a nice royal icing cookie and you see those kind of blotches of discoloration coming up, that's butter bleed. So one of the tricks for not getting that is to make sure that your cookie is completely cooled before you try to frost it with the royal icing. Make sure those cookies are completely cool. Don't start on a warm cookie. Any other questions? And I will say, there's one thing I want to say. I follow these 3 wonderful ladies on Facebook. Amber, I can't remember her last name, but she kind of goes by Sweet Ams. Marlon of Montreal Creations, and Haniella. They have cookie decorating free tutorials every Friday on Facebook. If you look those ladies up, I will send the link for that as well if you want, but they're a great way to learn. It's funny, they made beach cookies too this summer, and mine was slightly different until Marlon's, and Marlon's did almost exactly the same thing I did. And I was like, oh no, we did the same cookie, but that's okay. There's like, you know, a little bit of, crossover, right? There's so much you can do. There's molds everybody knows about, there's icing everybody knows about, everybody gets kind of the same ideas, but that's okay. But those ladies are my favorite to watch, so I'm gonna plug them. So they're amazing decorators, and they make it look so easy. It's a little more practice in the way they make it look, but they do make it look pretty easy. Thank you, Lee. I'm so happy you guys all joined me for this decorating class, and it's like this mini little decorating snippet. And I have, like, anybody wants to see it, I have some of that dress lace from the library's mold. It's kind of torn up now because people have been snacking on it. My friends all wanted to taste it. It tastes kind of like, I will say dress lace has kind of a slightly chemical taste to it a little bit, but kind of like marshmallow. But you can see the library's royal icing, or the cake lace mold from the library. I don't know if you guys can see that. This is from the library's mold there that you saw me doing on the other side. And cake lace is fabulous for like wedding cakes and stuff like that. It is so much easier than piping it yourself. Yeah, it doesn't, you really won't taste it. Like, you're going to taste the icing. It's kind of almost like a sweet, flavorless thing.
I need to ask everyone to do a poll. If they can just take a quick moment to do a poll. I'm putting it up there now. There's just 2 questions. I'll just leave it up for a moment. So let us know if you've enjoyed this session today, if you had fun, and if you think you learned something new. We really appreciate that. We can see it. Yay.
Oh, and I also you guys saw that little scraper I was using. I highly recommend getting one of these little things. I get it from the Cookie Countess online. And I know you can just use a spatula, but this little scraper is like, it's one of those things where you're like, I could just use something else. Why would I need that thing? It's been my best friend it's been forever. It's called an icing genie. It's got a little lamp on one side and it's got a little, I love this, especially if you're doing molds. Get a scraper. It's the best thing ever.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording, I think. Do we have any more questions? You guys still have, we have a couple more minutes if anyone has any more questions they'd like.
Is the library going to have more of these cookie type classes? I mean, I really enjoyed this one. It was fun.
Oh, thank you. If you guys give us the feedback, I can always do. I'm really hoping that once we get back to being live, like in-person stuff, that I can start teaching you guys some stuff in the collaboratory. I'd like to do some like live stuff with you guys, and I'll bring the icing and stuff, and we could decorate cookies in there. That's kind of my dream. So like, hopefully we can get into that. Yeah.
Oh, great, great.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.